Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. Maayong buntag kaninyong tanan. I came to Cebu to deliver this keynote speech, to join you here today, and I will fly back right after my speech. I believe this is so important, and the protection of our coral reefs and the holding of this conference every 4 years is so essential. But all the talk we're going to do, paperworks and talks and agreements you could arrive at, will be to naught if you don't operationalize all the thoughts, ideas, science that we know. So I hope that the opening today, and as it ends in 4 or 5 days, we would able to bring back to our communities, our jurisdictions, the work that we do in the next couple of days to make sure that our environments are more resilient, that we increase our protected areas and we conserve and protect them better, that our coral reefs will be rehabilitated so fish stock would improve and the lives of fisher folks and the communities would be better. Dr. Perry Alinio, thank you for your invitation. Dr. Gomez, thank you for your introduction. And all of those present here today, UPMSI, the DNR, the local government of Cebu. There is no question that marine biological diversity is enormously important for the Philippines and the rest of the world. Our country, being an archipelago located within the Coral Triangle, is blessed with a very rich biodiversity. This I don't have to say. You know that better than I do. We know that in 2009, the Philippines was a signatory to the Coral Triangle Initiative. I believe the Secretariat is based in Jakarta. I would ask the DNR, especially with the newly installed head of the Biodiversity Management Bureau, as well as a Climate Change Commission, and perhaps the BIFAR of the Department of Agriculture, to be more aggressive in operationalizing what was signed during President Arroyo's term in 2009 in Indonesia. I know that Jakarta hosts the Secretariat. After the signing in 2009, there's not much I heard of from government, from DNR, DA, and the newly formed CCCOM. It would be helpful if we, as one of the countries within the Coral Triangle, along with Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, Timor-Leste, I'm not sure if the other countries, 2 or 3 other countries, could have greater initiatives for the protection of this most important part of our planet. So that's one of the requests, assignments that I asked DNR, BMB to do, along with DA. I hope that the DA is here, BIFAR, UPMSI could help. I'm also looking for the DNR Regional Director of EMB and the RD. They should be here. This is the work we should do to make sure that initiatives signed internationally and by the national government, operationalized by the academe and by local governments and the local stakeholders. We have one of the richest marine ecosystems characterized by extensive coral reefs, seagrass beds, and dense mangroves. We have the National Greening Program. Honestly, I don't know how effective it is. I really want the Commission on Audit to audit the NGP because billions upon billions of pesos have been devoted, and I, as Chairman of Finance, have been supporting it. But have we really increased or improved the mangroves? Have we increased the resilience of communities living by coastal areas? Or are we planting mangroves where mangroves should not be planted anymore, or the wrong species, as reports reach me? So in short, let's make the science work for us. Let's shun all forms, even a whiff of corruption. Let's not plant mangroves over mangroves just so that we will comply and say that we did mangrove reforestation. Let's make sure that the coral restoration projects are the kind of coral reforestation projects akma that is attuned to that kind of marine environment. As reported in a 2016 Philippines Fisheries Profile of the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources of BIFAR, the Philippines ranked 9th among the major fish-producing countries in the world in 2015, with a total production of 4.5 million metric tons of fish, crustaceans, mollusks, and other aquatic plants. The country takes pride in having the second largest coral reef environment in Southeast Asia, which is home to a diverse number of species. According to the BIFAR, the estimated 26,000 square kilometers of coral reef area of the Philippines holds 915 reef fish species and more than 400 coral species, 12 of which are identified endemic to Philippine waters. These are research materials have done. I would like the DNR to validate the information of the DA-BIFAR, or if we've lost it, or if it's increasing, or if it's improving at all. Reefs play a crucial role for the continuity of life in the sea. They protect coastlines and stabilize mangroves and seagrass beds from strong waves and destructive effects of tropical storms. More importantly, they serve as nurseries and habitats of marine species, where fish spawn before going to the open sea. Obviously, we need our seas to live, for us to sustain our basic needs, for us to improve the nation's growth and development. Unfortunately, our overdependence on our seas, on our natural environment, has greatly contributed to the worsening state of the country's marine ecosystem, which has not only led to the extinction of marine species, but has also been detrimental to the state of the environment, of the sources of our food supply, livelihood, and even related industries such as tourism and trade. This makes our responsibility to protect our oceans and our reefs even greater to mitigate the effects of marine ecosystem degeneration and coral reef bleaching and destruction. According to the Ocean Conservancy, the Philippines is one of the top sources of plastic trash dumped into the sea, contributing 2.7 million metric tons of plastic waste and 500,000 metric tons of plastic waste leakage per year. I think this is one of the most major concerns, and even in the recent spring meetings of the World Bank, IMF, the Blue Economy session focused a lot on plastic trash, on microplastics, of which the Philippines is unfortunately a great contributor. Aside from the worsening case of marine litter, one of the main challenges is the extensive damage to the coral reef systems due to the rising sea surface temperature and ocean acidification. Extreme heat results in coral bleaching, which then leads to the destruction of our coral reefs that would ultimately mean diminishing fish population, lower fish catch, lower protein intake for our people. It cannot be denied that climate change is one of the factors of ecosystem degeneration. Now, how do we address the challenges in conservation and sustainable use of our marine biodiversity? We already have ongoing programs in our country and in ASEAN on coastal and marine biodiversity and management, which have been contributing to efforts to ensure sustainable fisheries through various approaches such as protecting, conserving, rehabilitating habitats, supporting growth in agriculture and fisheries, building adaptive capacities of coastal communities, the resilience of natural systems. Among these programs is a Coral Triangle Initiative, which I mentioned, on coral reefs, fisheries, and food security. The Philippine government implements, the DNR actually implements the SCREMP, the Sustainable Coral Reef Ecosystem Management Program. Annually, it receives billions of pesos of funding. The GIZ, German grant, supports our protected areas a lot, both terrestrial and marine. As you know, the SCREMP is a national program on the protection and rehabilitation of coral reef ecosystems through a strategic, sustainable, and ecosystem-based approach. In 2001, I authored the Ecological Solid Waste Management Law, RA 9003, which simply says that we should institutionalize the segregation of waste at source, recycling, and composting. So simple. But only 25% of LGUs actually implement it. If we only did this, if this hotel did this, if this city did it, if this province did it, if Metro Manila does it, then we can have up to 80% diversion of waste, so only 20% would actually go to environmentally engineered sanitary landfills. And if we were responsible enough, we would not throw plastic waste or waste, or even human waste or liquid waste into our seas. The President was correct in saying that Boracay has turned into a cesspool. And it's not just Boracay, it's many of our tourist areas and protected areas. We look at our rivers and our lakes and our waters and our oceans as sanitary bins sometimes. Poso Negro ng Maynila, ang Manila Bay at ang Pasig River. That shows great and immense irresponsibility and is in violation of both RA 9003 and the Clean Water Act, two laws I authored in my first term. It just takes a simple sense of responsibility and accountability in the Filipino word, malasakit. For hotels, for companies, for industry, for homes, not to have their waste directly into water and have wastewater treatment. It's actually very simple if laws were actually followed. In the Philippines, several cities have led the way in improving the zero waste solution. They're cost effective, they're accessible, they're doable. A small barangay called Nyogan in Tagaytay, Barangay Sikat in Alfonso, San Fernando City, in partnership with Sonia Mendoza of the Mother Earth Foundation in Pampanga, in my own hometown of Malabon, the Barangay Potrero, which used to be one of the dirtiest in Metro Manila because there are informal settlers and did not know waste segregation, but it was a challenge for me to teach them. And they eventually learned, behaved, were disciplined, and won the Clean and Green Award in Metro Manila among all the barangays. So kung papastulin natin at ididisiplina, kaya naman ng Pilipino. Hindi tayo mga maruming tao. Dapat malinis, sundin ang batas, huwag itapon ang dumi at basura sa tabing dagat o sa tubig. Napakasimple po. I'm speaking in Tagalog when I want to stress a point, or when I'm a bit angry, I just say it in Filipino. I'll speak in English now. In 2013, eco-aids or trash pickers collected trash. They monitored waste segregation at each household. I'm talking about the story of San Fernando, which is supposed to be a model of eco-waste segregation. They trained non-compliant communities on segregation, provided them tricycles and push carts for daily collection. They reduced their truck collection to only twice per week. The city ensured that each of the 35 barangays had a well-functioning MRF, and they had the highest waste diversion rate of 78%. Imagine, if we don't segregate, all of this waste will go to landfills. And of course, not in my backyard, and no city or town or province would want to have a landfill. Who would want? But when you implement my law, you can have up to 78% diversion. Ang ibig sabihin po niyan, 78% ay nare-resikulo o nagagawang compost waste, at yung natitira lang sa 100%, na 22% ay napupunta sa landfill. Di ba? Ang laking epekto at konti. So it's possible. If San Fernando City can do it, and small barangays which I mentioned can do it, we don't have to throw it anywhere. And definitely not in our oceans, bays, seas. As of last year, over 10,000 MRFs were reported all over the country. These were established to reduce, collect, compost, and recycle waste that would otherwise end up polluting both land and sea. Support for the implementation of RA 9003, or the National Solid Waste Management Commission, not only by national and local government units, has been growing, but slowly. I wrote the bill in '98, my first term, passed it after 3 years in 2001. It's 2018, and perhaps just 1/3 of the country implements it. But even if just one barangay implements it, it's doable. So why can't the others do it? And funding for the commission only happened when I took over the chairmanship of the chairman of the Committee on Finance. Otherwise, all these years, it was zero funding for a very important law. So we welcome collective global action for segregation and especially for ocean cleanup. Scientific studies conducted to understand and characterize marine litter in various places are important for finding solutions to reduce its quantity and deadly impacts on marine life. We also have the Fisheries Code, although it's an old law which should be revisited, 20 years, that prioritizes the management, conservation, and the protection of fisheries and aquatic resources. The law provides a legal basis for the conservation and protection of the oceans and ensures the judicious utilization and management of marine life on a sustainable basis. Under this code, a ban is imposed on the exploitation and exportation of corals, as well as the fishing and taking of any rare, threatened, and endangered species. I hope exporters from Cebu follow this. When we look at the beautiful giveaways, we make sure it's not from threatened or endangered species. One of the major challenges in this area that the Philippines has to deal with is a rampant illegal poaching in the high seas, especially within the Moro Gulf and the Sulu Sea. Illegal poaching has, for many years, caused severe damage to the seabed and the coral reefs, pollutes the seas, and kills hundreds of marine species, affecting the balance of marine biodiversity. A damage of this magnitude could be prevented with strict implementation of the law, and for this, we rely strongly on our law enforcement agents from the DA, from the Navy and the Coast Guard, from the PNP even, and local governments which are in the front line of the implementation of our environmental laws. Another measure aimed at strengthening climate adaptation mechanisms and conserving biodiversity was recently passed, and this is the INIPAS. It's now pending approval or signature by the President. Despite the enactment of the NIPAS in 1992, the protection of many protected areas existed only in paper. It's the BNB of the DNR, the head of whom is present here today, who would know this better. How many protected areas were actually declared in 1992? And only 13 were legislated in a span of 15 years. And we just enacted the additional protected areas, e-NIPAS, expanded NIPAS, without Palawan, unfortunately, sadly, because they didn't want to be a part of it, but another legislation will have to be done to include Palawan. And so it's been so excruciatingly slow, because that's the process of legislation. But I believe that local governments would know which needs to be protected. And so local ordinances, provincial legislation can be done and protected, even while national legislation needs to speed up its work. Many important ecosystems remain underprotected, including open seas, coastal areas, wetlands, and tropical forests. It was shocking and disconcerting to find out during our Boracay hearing, the first one, when we discovered that out of the 7, if I'm not mistaken, wetlands in Boracay, only how many BMB, DNR were remaining? 3, 4? No, there were 7. And they showed the picture in 2008, and 10 years later, 3 or 4 were covered with buildings and structures. Kaya tayo binabaha. Kaya hindi balansyado ang ating ecosystem kasi tinatabunan ng wetlands, tinitutuluhan at dinalagyan ng mga gusali para sa turismo. at sa kabuhayan. Hindi tama yun. May mga lugar para sa mga bagay na gito at hindi dapat tinatakpan ang mga wetlands. I speak in Tagalog again when I'm frustrated. The proposed INIPAS law will secure the remaining protected areas in the country by strengthening access to funding for protection programs as well as the prosecution of prohibited acts. Among the protected areas that will benefit from this law are the coral reef sanctuaries such as Tubataha, although Tubataha was enacted the first batch. So I just spoke to our new BMB head and I said, let's inventory what we had in 92. We added 94 in the INIPAS. What remains from the 200 plus that were declared in 92? Apart from this more than 200, there are still more that need to be protected. First, let's see how we are protecting what was declared in 92, how we will protect those that were newly declared in 2018. Let's see areas, both marine and terrestrial, that were not included yet in both years, 92 and 2018, and speed it up through local legislation and eventually through national legislation, and provide funding for its rehabilitation or conservation, and inform local governments to protect it. So the job of our DNR and BFAR-DA is to inform one-on-one our local governments, gobernador, mayor, kapitan. Ito po ang bundok sa inyo. Ito po ang lawa sa inyo. Ito po ang sea at open sea sa inyo. Ito po ang inyong coral reef sa likod ninyo, sa harap ninyo. Pangalagaan nyo to. We should have that information, and we do have that information. Regional Director, DNR, DA, EMB should know. What is your area of responsibility? What are the open seas and the coral reefs under your watch? What are the lakes and rivers under your watch? How wealthy is it? What is the state? Is it better now when you assumed than when you assumed? Or are you just allowing it to degrade and to be abused? If I were a regional director, if I were BMB head, that's what I would do. Every day, that's your mantra. And BMB should call, or the head of USEC regions of DNR should call and meet all the regional directors, lock them up in a room, and tell them they should know, like the palm of their hand, the state of their marine biodiversity, mountains as well, the land as well, and to inventory the wealth of their marine biodiversity. And what was the catch, fish catch, let's say 10 years ago, 20 years ago? What was the state of their mangroves at the time? What have you done in DNR under the NGP for almost 8 years with 40 billion allocated? How has it improved? And what are the other challenges? Actually, I'm saying this because that is a report I'm requesting from the DNR BMB to submit to my office. So as part of our commitment with the international community to protect marine ecosystems, the Philippines recently acceded to several international agreements, such as the agreement to promote compliance with international conservation and management measures by fishing vessels on the high seas, the Port State Measures Agreement, which is the first binding international agreement to specifically target illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, the International Convention on the Control of Harmful Anti-Fouling Systems on Ships, and the MARPOL Protocol, which prevents and minimizes pollution from ships by setting limits on sulfur oxide and nitrogen oxide emissions from ship exhausts, which are harmful to human health, and prohibits deliberate emissions of ozone-depleting substances. As chair, again, of the Foreign Relations Committee, I sponsored the concurrence of some of these international treaties and agreements. I'm quite fortunate to chair 3 very important committees: Finance, Foreign Relations, and Climate Change. And I'm able to mainstream climate adaptation and resilience into the national budget, and I'm able to sponsor important pieces of concurrence in the ratification of conventions. But all of these will be to naught if we have conventions ratified on paper but not understood or implemented by the executive as national legislation. With recent reports on the worsening marine litter, I intend to file important measures to promote a circular economy in which resources are used for as long as possible and the use of non-renewable resources is minimized, as well as to ban the use of microplastics. You know very well, microplastics are small plastic pieces that can easily pass through water filtration systems. They end up in the ocean, posing a threat to the aquatic life and human health. The most used type of microplastics are microbeads that are usually found in cosmetic and hygiene products such as cleansers, toothpaste, and shampoo. I am informed that the United States has already passed a Microbead-Free Waters Act. Canada has banned products with plastic microbeads in their market. The United Kingdom has officially banned the use of plastic microbeads in cosmetics and personal care products. It is now time for the Philippines to implement the same law. Banning microplastics and single-use plastic bags will help reduce wastage and may lead us to veer away from a throwaway culture, because the waste that we produce, unless minimized and managed properly, will find its way into our oceans and will affect both marine and human life. As I said, laws are not enough. It is most important that these laws are implemented efficiently and effectively. Thus, I am calling on all local government units to exercise its crucial role in the strict implementation and enforcement of existing relevant laws concerning conservation and sustainable use of marine biodiversity. I urge the Department of Environment and Natural Resources to work closely with the DA BIFAR and UPMSI, San Carlos University, and other academic institutions to come up with programs for marine conservation and coral rehabilitation, as well as a Philippine Coast Guard for strict enforcement of our laws. I'm also calling on our friends and neighbors in the international community who are present here today. The seas and oceans around us serve as a bridge that connect all of us. As one of the global commons, we share not only its bounty, but we have a shared duty and accountability to keep it clean and thriving. An ecosystems approach, therefore, towards a more holistic, multi-sectoral, integrated, and sustainable management of our marine environment and resources will be much more beneficial to our communities and our countries. Continents may separate us, but we are nations living in one planet. Conservation and the sustainable use of marine biodiversity should not be a burden on individual countries alone. We need to unite towards the protection of our oceans and the responsible use of marine resources. In closing, I wish to emphasize that marine life is vital to support human life. Our lives are linked closely to the ocean and the rich marine resources that it yields. We must act now and work together to find the much-needed balance in using the resources of our oceans and protecting its biodiversity to ensure that it benefits us in a sustainable manner. This marine ecosystem, the corals that sustain the lives of the marine species, when destroyed today, will not just grow overnight, we know that. Destroying coral reefs is stealing the homes of marine life organisms, and it is just like compromising the resource needs of our present and future generations. Let us work hand in hand to bring back our coral reefs and the entire marine ecosystem to its once pristine and abundant condition, so that marine life will not lose its home, our marine biodiversity will remain sustainable, and both the present and future generations will continue to benefit from our natural resources. And so, after having said all that, my message is actually very simple, and that is to implement laws we already enacted. The Clean Water Act, the Ecological Solid Waste Management Law, the NEPAS Law of 1992, the expanded National Integrated Protected Areas Act of 2018, the Climate Change Act of 2009, and many more. Even in the absence of the protection laws that are needed in some areas, just our own personal responsibility and accountability in taking charge of the waterways, the rivers, the oceans, and the seas, and the coral reefs, and the mangroves in our midst, in our backyard, in our communities, in our barangays. If we do that, if each and every of the 42,000 barangay captains who have mangroves in their area, each and every mayor of the 1,634 LGUs who have coastal areas, if each and every regional director of DNR and the DA would just watch over its backyard, then we would see a more thriving, robust, and better rehabilitated marine environment for the Philippines. Thank you very much. Maganda umaga po sa inyo.